And for people that see someone who's a beast, who's done great things, you just assume that they're different than you.
Right.
But then you hear about your insecurities and your pitfalls and all the things that went wrong with you, and you realize, well, God damn it, those are the same things that go wrong with me. Like maybe I have that inside of me and I've just never summoned it.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host, the expert Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 326. Hope you're amazing as always. I really do. Hope the sun is shining, you're smiling, and if you're not, that's okay. That's why you're listening to this episode. And you know what? Today's episode is interesting. So if you don't like effing and swearing, then this might not be the episode for you, because it's a clip from an interview with David Goggins on Joe Rogan, and both of them are swearing a lot. And guess what? I swear a lot too. I just don't swear as much on the podcast. Best behavior, you know what I mean? But David Goggins is an interesting guy. If you've never come across this dude, he's wild. He's wild. Definitely read his book. But he's wild. Yeah, he's done. I think he's the only man ever to do multiple Hell Weeks, to get into the special forces. He just did them multiple times because he thought he could do them better. They actually talk about this episode, talk about mental strength, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about this today. He did 8 ultra marathons over 8 weeks. So that's every weekend he did an ultra. Do you know what an ultra is? Yeah, that's 100-mile run. Think about that, right? He did 100 miles every weekend for 8 weeks. Usually people do an ultra and then that's it. They're done for like months. You know what I mean? So this proves how crazy or brilliant or both David Goggins is. And this also ties back to a previous episode, which is 323. If you haven't listen to that episode, go back and what you're doing, listen to it, right? It's called Addiction or Discipline, the subtle key to success or self-destruction. Now, I want you to think about that concept from 323 all the way through this episode, because there's a fine line between addiction and discipline. And I really believe they go kind of hand in hand with each other, but it comes down to, are you making the decision? Are you having the intent? Or is it something that you have to do? Do you see the difference? It's the emotion behind it that makes the difference, right? But hey, go listen to episode 323. You're going to learn all about that. But I just wanted to put that out there because I want you to pay attention as he's going through this conversation, and then look in your own life. Where are you being disciplined? Where are you being addictive? And those addictive habits or patterns can be from the past. They can be sabotage behaviors. They become limiting yourself, the way you think, feel, and act around certain people, places, and things. All of that massively affects how you feel about what you're about to do, right? And if you're coming from such a horrible, dark place, do you know what I mean? You hate yourself, and that's why you go and you go and run 800 miles, right? Like Goggins. Then that's the wrong emotion. That's only going to do damage psychologically, cellularly. It's only going to do damage, right? What we want to be coming from with everything is, I'm into this. I'm going to do this because I'm going to get there. Let's go. That's massively different. It's different brain chemicals. It's a different nervous system. It's a different focus. It's a different everything, right? It's a different decision. Either way, the results that Goggins gets means, it's extreme, which means you can really expand the boundary around whatever it is you think is impossible. Make it possible, right? At the end of the day, you have one life, one chance. Let's go, man. You know what I mean? Let's do this. You know what type of life you want inside of you. You know how you want to experience it. And if you don't, go back through many other episodes or work that out, right? Come and hang out and I'll help you do that. But at the end of the day, that is the mission, right? If we're very clear on how to go and achieve a gold medal and we know the system of how to do it, guess what? Well, it's up to us and obviously our ability and everything else, but it's up to us to go and get it, right? Not everyone can, but if we strive to achieve it, then we're going to be way closer to it than we are now. And that's still awesome. The growth that you're going to have, the perception you're going to have of yourself, it completely radically changes. It's like deciding, right, I'm going to go and be a billionaire. Yeah, billionaire's the buzzword these days, right? But I'm going to be a billionaire. Okay, and you don't achieve $1 billion. Are you going to be way closer than you are now? Yeah, it's the same with everything. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to jump into the episode in a second. And speaking of jumping in, if I haven't seen you in LinkedIn, Instagram, or in my Facebook group, what are you doing? Come and hang out, man. Come and hang out. All you got to do is type in Andy Murphy Mindset and you will find me, right? Also, make sure that you're getting your two free tools right now. One, you can get your mornings dialed in. Tune your brain in every morning, right? With the FireMind morning. Either go to firemind.me or like everything, go to andymurphy.online. Or hit the show notes. All the links are in there. But either way, make sure you go and get your mornings dialed in. Forget the pen and paper. Feel how you want to. Focus how you want to. Train your brain to perform at your very best every morning. You can go and grab that audio for free. Sound good? Good. Go and grab it. The other thing you should be getting depends on how much you understand and want to get mental mastery. It's go and hang out on andymurphy.online and go and get your buck. Yeah, it's free right now. Before we make it not free, do the second version. Well, it's Total Control Blueprint. Go and get it. It's to stop you grinding and instead learn how to control your states, your brainwaves. Why? You got it, right? So you can step into flow instead. So go get those. And of course, we got the Genius Trader getting launched, the 8-Figure Thinker Mental Training Academy getting launched. We got a mastermind with Ryan Alford from Radcast coming out. It's fun times. And all of these are to take you to a whole new level. So speaking of a whole new level, should we get on with it? Yeah, let's jump into today's episode. But just before we do, make sure you're hitting those show notes up. Okay, cool. I'll see you at the end of the show.
The book is outstanding, and it's more than just sitting across from you and you telling your story is one thing, but this long, detailed history of how you became to be the person you became. I think it's very educational for people because they can realize, like, oh, he wasn't always this guy. This is what's fucked up about people. Like, you see a guy who's like you, who runs, I mean, how many ultra marathons did you run in a row? You ran some insane number.
I think it was, I ran 800s in 8 weekends in a row.
Just stop and think about that, ladies and gentlemen. 800s means 8 100-mile races. 8 weekends in a row. A 100-mile race will put you out for fucking 6 months. Right. And you ran 8 of them, 8 weekends. It's a fucking insane accomplishment.
It was nuts.
You think about a person like that, you think of them as in this like static, fully formed version. Right. You don't usually get to see, and especially someone like you, who you went into so much depth about your rise and fall and rise and fall. It wasn't like a straight linear process between you getting inspired and then you becoming this bad motherfucker.
No, it wasn't like what's that show called that Will Smith plays, that black guy who kind of makes it in the financial world. Pursuit of Happiness.
I never saw that.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It wasn't like Pursuit of Happiness, man. Like where the guy struggles and he gets over it and he makes it.
Yeah.
I fell on my ass. I thought I got to the top of Mount Everest, and Mount Everest just fucking slide right underneath me, man. I was like, God, dog, I gotta start from scratch again. Scratch became my friend.
Okay, crew. I just thought I'd start the clip off rather than me jumping in as usual at the start. Do you hear what David Goggins said? Yes, for a start, the book is a documentation of his mental strategy of how he has the belief and drive to do what he does. Do you understand that? That's what an autobiography is, or it should be, right? It should be, someone should be able to read it and look at it and then be able to identify key points or key areas or key strategies that that person does and pull them into your own world and actually implement them or try that version of reality on. And when we start to be able to do that with every single person, then that's how we evolve. And what we call that in psychology or in neurolinguistics is modeling. Now, modeling, it's a whole deep topic, but modeling on a basic level is reading someone's automatic patterns so you can replicate them. That could be around money, success, happiness, or in David Goggins, mental toughness, right? That's really what all this is, mental toughness. It's more than willpower. He's conditioned his brain and nervous system to respond a certain way so he's able to push past areas that people would not normally be able to. That is, yes, willpower, but it's more than that. It's deeply ingrained as a habit of how he wins. Does that make sense? So then you'll notice something really cool. Really cool. What did he say? He said his journey wasn't like the Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, of course. Not everything is achievable for a start, right? Not everything is. But the pursuit, there's the key word, right? The pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of your dream, the pursuit of your goal, the pursuit of your growth. Does that make sense? So it's the pursuit, the journey, right? That is where we get our growth, our expansion, who we become, changes through that journey. But we all want to get to the end result. But what David Goggins said then, and this is the same, think about this in your life and think about this in your business journey, right? Everything moves in chapters, stages, books, everything. And my life has, and I'm sure your life has, and especially your business journey, there's highs and lows and ups and downs, right? And that's what he was saying. He's saying he reached the top of Mount Everest and he goes, shit, there's another Mount Everest. And then you get to the top of that one and you go, shit, there's another Mount Everest. So you might as well get used to and enjoy climbing Mount Everest, right? Because you get to the top and then there's the next journey, the next journey, the next journey. And when you really, really get that, then it's awesome because it's freeing. Because the ride never stops, the game never stops, the journey never stops, the growth never stops. It constantly keeps going. You never stop getting better. Does that make sense? So when you can understand that, then you're in a certain place in your journey right now, and it's perfect. It's perfect because if there is no end, then what's the rush, right? Just get it done.
Literally, man. So, you know, that's how you put in the book, man. Just going up, going down, going up. Just the real raw version of how my life was. It was so in depth to go back through your life with a fine-tooth comb that I almost got embarrassed to even put it out there to people.
Yeah.
That's what you don't understand, man. Like, even me right now to talk to you, I'm in the car for a fucking hour getting pumped up because I'm a shy, introverted, leave me alone type of guy. Like, I'm still that motherfucker who is 6 years old, you know, at a play who can't say his line because I know I'm going to stutter in front of 5 people. So I walk off the stage. That's still me. So every day I'm fighting that dude. So people think, oh my God, man, you're on a podcast. You look so crazy, so evil. No, I'm trying to be locked into Joe. So my mind isn't veer off saying, let's run out the damn door because people are watching me on the fucking podcast. I want to open this damn door and get the hell out of here, man. So that's the real me. So I'm not sadistic, man. I'm focused on what I have to do to stay locked into the game of life.
So understand the intensity, and it creates results, right? It creates results, and he's constantly battling or moving past that little kid so he can perform in this world. And we're all that kind of like that, right? We're all kind of still that little kid. Some of us have still got traumas that we're dealing with from kids, but really so much happens to us when we're kids. 0 to 7 is the imprint stage. And that's what he's talking about, being 6, right? So the imprint stage is like the blueprint of your well, it's the first foundation of your nervous system and brain. So it's, guess what? It's impressionable, right? It's impressionable. And if you are still dealing with that demon, then to me, that's an issue with that, right? We've got to find a different driver, a different fuel, a different motivator. Now, he's still that person and he's aware of it, which means he's overcoming it so we can take action. But there's still healing there. To me, there's still healing there. And that healing might actually change who he is. It will change who he is, but it would change potentially the intensity that he could run at or perform at. Why? Because he's running off a different fuel. And that fuel might not want to do those 800 mile runs, right? But at the end of the day, hey, we're all growing, we're all changing, and there's no right or wrong or good or bad. It's just, for me, what we want to be is free of that weight so we can rise very, very fast. You know what I mean? But again, hey, what do I know? What do I know? And Goggins does know. We can't see the world through each other's eyes, but if we did look or try to or mind read what he's seeing the world as, that gives him that fuel, then it's probably pain, right? And hey, we all need fuel sometimes.
And that's why I tell people, man, I go there. I go there.
That's one of the reasons why this book is so good, is because you're so honest about your vulnerabilities and how you overcome them. And for people that see someone who's a beast, who's done great things, you just assume that they're different than you.
Right.
But then you hear about your insecurities and your pitfalls and all the things that went wrong with you, and you realize, well, God damn it, those are the same things that go wrong with me. Like, maybe I have that inside of me and I've just never summoned it.
So that makes you think, right? Or it should. It should make you think. It should make you think what is truly possible. You know, if we focused on our full potential, if we really dug deep inside, what are we really capable of? Are you here to change the world? Are you here to change your family's world? Are you here to change the business world? Are you here to change your health, the health world? What are you here for? Do you know what I mean? Goggins, why is he on earth? Inspire people, right? Inspire people to do way more than they thought was possible. And no matter what you think about Goggins or what the fuel that he's using as the motivator to achieve, he's still achieving, right? He's still achieving. Now, that's his own demons and stuff to work through, but we've all got those, right? We've all got those, and we're all getting better. But at the end of the day, that big picture, that big why are you doing what you're doing? If it's too small, what's the point? It gets boring, right? But for him, he's just seeing what is possible at his absolute best. And the question is, are you?
Right. And I'll tell you this, I started really realizing that when I started overcoming myself, I started getting around these real alpha males, these hard men. And I always put people way above me when I was growing up. Like, my God, they had to have a lot more than me to get to where they're at. And a lot of them did. But once you get around the best of the best of the best people, you can kind of start breaking them down and realizing, man, you're just as fucked up as me. Like we all have, but all you did was you hit it better. Your upbringing, your mom and dad, your society, the way you were raised, it hit it better than mine. You weren't the only black kid, or there was like 5 in a school. You know, I can't hide. Going through buds, I was the only black kid. You can't hide. But I started realizing just because I look different than you, a lot of you motherfuckers can't hide either. So it started giving me courage through watching people that we all have a story. We all have a jacked up life in one way or another. Some of us don't have the guts to talk about it, though. And that's where I found the guts to talk about mine.
Okay, so he used the word hid or to hide. So everybody, yeah, he's right. There's a couple of things here. First, he put himself around elite level people. Right? Think about that. The old classic statement is, right, your network is your net worth, and you become like the top 5 people that you hang around with. But why? Well, look at it in this case, right? You start to be able to deep dive way more into their psychology, and you realize yes, these people have used those wounds as fuel, right? But as they go on their journey, they heal, right? So by the time they're probably the end of their career, they've seen so much, they've felt so much, they've become an ultimate version of them. But at the end of the day, what he says is brilliant. We're all fucked up. We're all messed up, man. And it's just how you use that messed upness to grow in life and achieve in life. And that's the whole thing. So you're using it as fuel to become greater, or are you using it as a fire and you've burnt yourself out? You know? Big difference. And then David speaks about basically being authentic, being genuinely him, and showing all the highs, the lows, the ups and downs, the struggles, the pain. It's just being authentically him. And why do you think he's successful and people know him when he's on the Rogan podcast? Yeah, because he's authentically himself. And that's the thing, and that's the trick with life, and that's the trick with marketing, and that's the trick with sales, and that's the trick with business, and that's the trick with coaching or whatever the heck you want. It's the same thing. If you're authentically you, then there is no lies. And if there is no lies, then people see the truth. And if people see the truth, then that's strength, right? That's confidence. That's bulletproofness. That's strong. Do you see the difference? It's not weak to be vulnerable. It's actually massively strong to be vulnerable and still walk forwards in life and be exposed, yet still be authentically you.
Well, there's purity in physical pursuits, right? Because it doesn't matter what your social status is. It doesn't matter how people perceive you. When it comes down to how long can you stay in that pool, when it comes down to how far can you run, right, when it comes down to how much can you push yourself past the part where you want to quit, right, how far can you keep going? There's a purity in that it dissolves social order, all that bullshit, what people think about you goes out the window. It's who are you right now? That's right. Who are you right now?
That's a true statement, man. And I look at it as psychological warfare. And that's where I started learning that life is one big psychological warfare that you play on yourself. You play on yourself, man. The most important conversation I ever had is with myself. And the shit I was telling myself was so fucked up. It was so wrong. It was so misguided. And other people start to write that dialogue for you also. And it starts to be what you say to yourself every single day. And I started creating a whole nother warfare, a whole nother battle started becoming. I was like, oh, hang on a second, Goggins. You have these tools. You have these tools. Your life was basically the perfect grounds for training for where you need to go in your life. All the beatings, all the bullying, all the, you going through learning disabilities, all the struggles. It was the absolute perfect training ground for you to go to where you need to go. And that's how I started looking at my life versus woe is me, poopy pants, kick a rock down the street mentality. It was, God just hooked you right the fuck up. He hooked you right up, man, with the perfect place. You were training for the first 18, 19, 20 years. You were training for this stuff, man. You have the advantage of everybody else versus, my God, they're so above me. They came from a great family. Mom and dad love them. They didn't stutter, they didn't struggle. No, man, your struggle is what made you who you are now. So I started flipping this into a whole different, I started being a master of what I was scared of. I was scared of my mind. And I became literally a master of that mind. And that's what from now on, it sets me apart from most people. I started diving into that.
I love what you just said. Because self-talk literally is one of the most powerful things that you can master. Around 66% of the things that we say are on repeat. Think about that, right? Around 66% of the things that we say are on repeat. So if you understand what the unconscious mind is, and that is the software that plays in the background of your head, that's like the software that plays in the background of a computer, right? It runs automatically and it gets outdated. So when you really start to understand that, you got to upgrade. And if it's on repeat and those patterns that are automatic are telling you that you suck, you're less than people, right? Or you can't do something, or you're comparing yourself against somebody or something, then guess what? How does that make you feel? Right? Does it make you motivated and driven? No, it beats you down. And think about what your friends are saying and your network's saying. Those words create emotions. Those emotions create fuel. That fuel either pulls you forwards or pushes you back. It's the same thing, right? And most people let those words beat them down, or let people beat them down, or circumstances or environments or scenarios, or themselves or the past or the future. They let them beat them down. And that's all to do with the repetition of the words. It's the repetition of the images, the repetition of the patterns, the repetition of the habits. All of these things start to design a world around you. Neuro-linguistic programming, one of the things that I do, right? Neuro-linguistic programming. Neuro, the mind, linguistic, the words that we say, and programming. Our world is defined by the words, right? If we don't know say we're learning, I don't know, computers. Computers, that's so generic. But let's say we're learning coding, and we can't code because we don't know the language of coding. Does that make sense? So we can't communicate if we don't understand the language. Plain and simple.
Well, that is a big part of the stories when you go over your childhood and, you know, your abusive father, and then having this great guy that was going to become your stepdad, and then he gets murdered. It's like right when you're about to get out of it, everything looks good. Boom, and then he gets murdered. It's like these things really did sort of set you up to start from scratch again and just go, okay, roger that, we start from scratch. Right. And now you have that attitude. You developed it through all of these horrible personal experiences, all the trials and tribulations, all the evil shit that people try to do to you. That sort of set you up to be able to deal in a way that a lot of people can't.
Well, I used to look at my life from a different vantage point. And when you're in all the muck, and you're just walking in muck and walking in muck and walking in muck, you don't see that if you look off to the fucking left of the muck, there's a sidewalk, brother. Get off of it. You have your head down looking in this muck. Once I saw the sidewalk, got the sidewalk, I got a little break, and I got a different vantage point. And then from the sidewalk, I found a cliff. Then I found a mountain. I got way up high on top of my life and looked back down on it and said, okay, I got to figure this out, man. I'm not going anywhere. I'm starting to lie. So when you have a messed up foundation, I started lying about everything. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be accepted in some society of life, some social society. And I was like, man, this isn't the right way. I'm messed up here. I'm messed up here. I'm messed up everywhere. And so I realized the worst thing that happened to me is I lost myself. I never had myself. I never found myself. I had no self-esteem. So I knew through working out and through learning, because it took a lot for me to learn also, I started finding self-esteem. Once I found that, that's when doors started opening up. I stopped caring about people, that what they thought, being judged. Wow, if I say this, if I started right now, are you going to make fun of me? I stopped caring about that. And that's when my life started really changing for me, slowly but surely.
I love what you just said there. I love it, because what happens is, a concept I teach is consumer to investor, and the investor side always gets an ROI, right? Always a return on the investment. And the challenge with that is you only get that return on that energy if you are self-worth, full of self-worth. You deserve. Because then what happens is you stop looking for external validation. Does that make sense? So if we stop looking for external validation, then the only opinion that matters to us is ourselves, our own opinion. The only validation that we need, that we've done our best, is from us. The only validation that we need, that the idea that's burning inside of us to get out into the world, is from us. The only validation that we need, that what we're doing, our beliefs, our attitudes, how we see the world, who we feel we are, right, has to only come from you. Because if we start doing things for other people, then it's never going to be enough. And if it's never enough, then we're never enough. So as soon as he understood that and found that worth through accomplishment, right? This is something I call extrinsic motivation, right? And it's good, or extrinsic validation. So he's worked his ass off, saw that he can do stuff, which built his confidence, his new view of the world about what's possible, which expanded him into the unknown. And that expansion into the unknown means that, again, he was stepping into doing things that he didn't know he could do. But because of his past experience, that pattern builds up. And guess what? Yes, he kept pushing. You can do the same. And you probably know this if you're listening to this. But if you need to hear this today, then understand you can do the same. But it's all to do with self-worth. The only validation that you need that you're on the right path or you're doing your best is from you. And if that little voice inside of you says, you are not doing what you're supposed to, and it feels bad, then guess what? You might want to have a little chat about that to yourself.
Now, is this something that you learned? Is this something you learned yourself from exercise yourself? Or is this something you had read or heard about? Like, what made you equate doing this and doing these difficult things physically to mental toughness, to being, this is the discipline that you need in order to get your life out of the situation you're in?
So I never read anything. I could barely read, so
Right.
I wasn't reading back then. I watched a lot of movies, and I was really big into visualization. And I always equated working out to struggle. And I struggled my whole life, but I ran from it. So I started realizing, man, I got to start facing the struggle, and I got to be mentally strong for the struggle. So that's where I started coming up with, I'm training for life. Mentally, I'm training for life. I'm not training for, to lift 400 pounds. And I found out on my own pretty much, is that through discipline, through self-discipline, through repetition, through tons of repetition of the same thing that you don't want to do, and that's the key thing. Through repetition of things you don't want to do, you develop mental, like an armor for your mind. You start to armor your mind, because your mind's like, okay, we suffer every day. That's what we do. We do stuff that sucks every day. So then when the suck stuff comes, you're ready for it. And that's how it started coming up. I just started being very uncomfortable, and now it's like just a way of life.
It's a crazy thing to figure out, though. It's like that you figured it out, and you didn't just figure it out, you embraced it. Like when you were talking about your senior year of high school, when you're talking about your mirror being your accountability mirror, like you had a radical shift. Mm-hmm. Like you just decided to not be a fucking loser, right, and to start tightening up and start holding yourself accountable and get ready for things.
Do you understand it, though? Do you understand it? My system is neuro conditioning, right? What we're doing, we're conditioning. We're getting the mind, the body, the nervous system used to a new environment or an expanded business or a new stage in the business and life, right? That's neuro conditioning. Done it with world champions, done it with everyone. This is what I do. And so what Mr. Goggins is saying is that he did all of the things that he hated or didn't think he could do, right? Because he wasn't worthy. And through that growth, that journey, that discipline, right, he found worthiness. And everything is to do with self-worth. You either deserve to be a billionaire or you don't. You deserve to be a multimillionaire or you don't, right? You deserve to be happy or you don't. You deserve to be loved and in a relationship or you don't. You get the idea. So what he did is exactly what I do with people. We just do it faster than I'm running, right? We condition the brain to respond a certain way. Basically get rid of all those patterns, those old patterns that play, those old mistakes, those things that loop around your head, all of those, right? And so that grows us into a different version of us. Tony Robbins said it best. I don't know what you think about Tony. Some people think he's the cheesiest man alive. Hey, I get it. I do get it. But he said, I built this guy. I built this Tony Robbins. It wasn't by accident. I built this Tony Robbins, right? The guy's a billionaire. And so he's done all right. And it's you got to understand that building a new version of you or an upgraded version of you is what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to be the same. We're supposed to change. We're supposed to adapt. We're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to get better. What's the old classic saying in business? You're either flying or dying, right? That's because the brain and the body does the same thing. Think of a muscle, right? If you don't use it, what happens to it? Yeah, you lose it, right? It shrinks and dies. It's the same with your brain. It's the same with you stepping into the unknown. It's the same with you not dreaming about an amazing future. Building it, getting into it, doing it, making it happen, right? There's always something in your life that you absolutely love right now. There was a moment before it appeared in your life that you didn't even know it existed. That's the same thing with greatness. That's the same thing with life. It's all there, right? It's just, are we ready to receive it?
So I had this my whole life. I mean, I don't know if people believe in God or what. I don't care what you believe in. There's been this unrelenting voice in my head. We all have this voice. It's the right or wrong voice. And a lot of times that voice guides us into comfort. And my voice guided me into comfort a lot. But I had this other voice I heard my whole life saying, hey, motherfucker, what are you doing? No, man, we got to go over here. We got to go over here to that rock pile over in the fucking corner where nobody's at. That's where victory's at. We're over there in that corner. So this voice was giving me all these answers. I wasn't a real smart kid growing up, but I had this crazy voice in my head saying, over there is where the fucking answers are. And I didn't want to listen to it because over there was pain. Over there was me looking in the mirror. Over there was me being accountable for all these things I went through my life. Even though people put them on me, it's now mine to own. And I didn't want to go over there by myself, but I had to. And this voice was guiding me there. It's God, whatever you want to call it. But that's what it was in me.
Do you think that's just what when you separate yourself from your ego and what your insecurities and all like if you were giving yourself advice, you would say that's what the thing is to do. So do you think that's what it was, like your subconscious or you stripped away from all the bullshit when you couldn't lie to yourself because it's a voice in your head?
That's exactly it. It's exactly it.
Because it knew.
It knew. I was a character. I was trying to find myself through a character. I was making different hairstyles and sagging my pants, and I was off. I was off, man. I was a clown. I was a clown, and I was like, this is not where you're supposed to be in life, man. And it's ugly when you look in that dirty mirror, and you're trying to do a new hairstyle to go to school. You know, I had a hairstyle one time where I shaved the top of my head. You know how old men had the hair like leaving their head?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to school with hair on the side of my head and in my back, and I shaved the whole top of my head. I went to school like that, you know. And then I had like.
What did the kids say?
I don't remember what they said, but I was just a funny dude. You know, so that was my thing. I was the funny dude that came into school, like Criss Cross came out when I was in high school. So my pants were backwards. I said, you know, I'm gonna have my pants backwards, sag down past my ass crack, shirt turned backwards with a toothbrush in my mouth with the reverse part. The reverse part is your head is shaved and you have some hair on top. Just a little piece of hair versus like a part through hair. The part was on a bald head. So it was just, I would sit at home instead of studying. I would think about what can I do to impress the motherfucker at school.
Wow.
And that became my life. And it's a long road to hoe to get to the guy who says, now, you don't ever smile on any podcast. You look so serious. I look at that shit. I'm like, you motherfuckers have no idea who I am, where I've come from to get here today.
You could have probably been an entertainer. Like you probably, because you were doing all that kind of shit.
I have some jokes, Joe. I got some jokes, Joe.
I bet you do.
So what people read in this book can't hurt me. It's a sad story. It's a horrible story. It's a tragic story. It's a story that made me who I am today. But you have to learn to laugh at yourself too. Once you go through that shit, so there's a lot of parts in there where there's a lot of me against a lot of white people, you know? And I have a routine that I won't do. So people who hire me to speak, I'm not going to do the routine. I often do it sometimes. Think about it. I was a 36 black guy to go through SEAL training. Okay.
Out of how many people?
Out of probably, you're looking at probably 11, 12, to make it through, probably 13,000 SEALs. I was probably the 36, I was the 36th black guy to make it through. And over, since like the 1940s, you're looking at almost 70 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so do the math on that. So there's not a lot of black guys, and so I take that and I make a nice comedy skit out of that shit. Like the first time they tied me up and threw me, it's called drown proofing.
Yeah.
So I'm negative boring as hell.
Me too.
Oh.
I'm related to that big time.
Yes, you one of the few white boys, man. They're negative boring. You sink like a rock.
Like a rock.
And that's hard. So imagine them getting your hands and feet, tying your ass up and throwing you in the fucking water and say swim. It was like throwing a cat in the water with fucking a brick on him. So I was just losing my fucking mind. So it's so many things I had to get over, and I found humor. I found humor in my suffering. I was like, motherfucker, what are you doing out here, Goggins? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're literally trying to reinvent the wheel, but I was trying to reinvent my mind. And I used every single tactic possible to do that. I didn't want to live in this world where I was a fake human being anymore.
I love what he just said. He didn't want to be a fake human being anymore and didn't know how to break that mold or change, so he had to do something ridiculously radical, right? To step in so deep into the unknown, blue oceans, right? To step so deep there that there was no coming back. To put himself in a situation that challenged every single bit of him and see if he survived. Because if you did survive, you come out so wise, you come out so strong, you come out knowing what you're capable of, you become a very different version. And for people to say, oh no, you're always the same version. You are the same being, you are not the same version of that being. If you were, let's look at martial arts, right? If you go from white belt to black belt, are you the same human being by the time you get to black belt? No, you are not. Not in the slightest. Your experience, the conditioning, internal, external, is so different. You are seeing the world very, very differently. And that's what he's talking about. So if there's something in your life right now or you're in a situation that you're holding yourself back, what is it that you can do that's so extreme down the future path that it's going to scare you, but it's going to be an amazing change of events if you make it through. That's what he did. So what is it you're scared of right now? And who will you become on the other end if you just give it everything you've got?
And I was tired of blaming everybody for where I was at. My dad beat me, this happened. I mean, my dad ran prostitutes, man. My dad literally snatched the soul out of my mom. Like, my mom is still battling. Like, after my mom left my dad, and this is what I'll talk about in the book, she got married 3 times for a total of 6 months. I don't go there. I'm not even going to talk about the guy she married. So this woman she's beautiful. She's so smart, all this stuff, man. This guy literally stripped her soul away. And I was a young kid watching it. And I had no soul to begin with. And my brother, he has a story that he could write 8 books. My dad just came through and just washed us all clean. So to come out. Is he
still around?
He died about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not for sure. I didn't go to the funeral, but I forgave him. So I saw my dad through an 8-year-old's eyes. So we left when I was 8. And then at 22, I went back to see him through a grown man's eyes. And he was the same person I remembered. But I had to. You can't live with hate. You cannot move forward. As much as that guy tried to ruin all of our lives, that's where I came from. I had to figure out the origin of where I started from. So when I was going back through my life trying to fix who I am, the fucked up person I was, like, if your knee hurts, it's usually not your fucking knee that's hurting. It's something else, man. Like, it could be a tight quad. It could be the right leg if it's the left leg. You got to find out the origin of where all this shit began. And it was him. So I had to go back to where, my roots and the origin of all this happened, and it's hard to do that.
Did you make peace with him?
I made big peace with. So we didn't have a peaceful conversation. We left very Garanimal. He's a vicious man. He was a vicious man. I mean, medieval motherfucker. So I had become a medieval motherfucker at that time. I was 22 and I was the big boy, and so I was no longer the guy who was afraid. It was not like, hey, I want to kill you type of shit. And we were sitting at Denny's after an all-night skate or whatever the hell. He owned bars and skating rinks and shit like that. And So we were sitting down and we kind of got into it, and I just kind of left. But I had to make peace with it in myself. I could not hold on to that hate, because holding on to that hate was half the reason why I kept falling into the same pattern of failing. I had to start dumping off some baggage. I had to start figuring out me through him, and that's all he was there for. He was the origin. I had to figure him out, figure out why he was so evil to my mom, to me, my brother, and I had to start studying him. Like, a lot of people have situations where someone does something, and we all attack that person, like on the media. If someone does something wrong, everybody now is fucking perfect, and we now judge this guy. I don't judge him. I don't judge anybody. What I do is I start studying them. Why did they do that? Not in a judging way. I want to learn from you.
What he's talking about there is eliciting a strategy, or really analyzing somebody, modeling them, right? So what he's trying to do is understand their perspective or view of the world. So if you can look through somebody else's eyes, although you can't look through someone else's eyes, if you can start to understand where they come from. And if you start to trace the line back or the links back to what created that belief system or decisions that so they live that way. If we go back through their childhood, we go back through their life, it all begins to make sense, right? It's always a defensive mechanism. It's always a protective. It's always low self-worth. It's always a way for them to feel powerful and claim their strength back. And they do that through darkness. They do that through fucking horrible things. But at the end of the day, as long as we understand that, then we can forgive that person, because we know it's not personal to us. It's just that's who they are.
And what'd you get out of your dad?
I got that he grew up rough. He was very insecure, had a lot of kids, and his insecurities just trickled over onto us. So yeah, he jacked us up real good, but he never fixed himself. So if you never fix yourself, the next person in line is going to get the wrath. And we were next in line. You know, his first wife, killed herself or whatever happened, and, got burned up in a house or something. It's some craziness, man. There's a lot of stuff that goes on there that I didn't put in the book because I don't feel like going to court.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this it was a lot of stuff.
So what he did, David Goggins, was take his power back. He took his power back from his past. He took his power back from his father. He took his power back. And how we do that is we just have to heal inside. And that's what he's doing, right? And it's going to be a lifetime journey of healing, as it is in us all. But at the end of the day, look how powerful he's become. Look how strong he's become. Look how wise and philosophical he's become from his journey of pushing through, of seeing different perspectives, of analyzing himself and the world and his past and his parents. And he's making different decisions, and those decisions have led him to inspiring millions and millions of people. So, crew, that's the end of episode 326. Hope you loved it. Hope you got something from it. And I really you probably should listen to this again, right? Make sure you share it. Make sure you write me a review. Make sure you come and find me somewhere on social media. Remember, Andy Murphy Mindset, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook group. Come and find me. Head over to andymurphy.online, as we're revamping that whole website right now. So to make it easy, coming up soon, 8-Figure Thinker, Genius Trader, and the Rad Academy. And all of that's coming very soon. It's in the works. But today, make sure you head over to andymurphy.online. Go and grab your audio and tune your brain up, your unconscious mind, to make sure you have the best day every day with the Fire Mind Morning. And also, why don't you go and grab yourself the book? Yeah, do it. Total Control Blueprint, how to stop grinding and destroying yourself through grinding, which is the entrepreneur's worst thing, and instead step into flow. So both of those two gifts are there waiting for you. Awesome tools. And speaking of awesome stuff, you have an amazing week. Much, much love. And I will see you in the next episode. Until then, oh yeah, why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.